morning, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Healing Our Communities. I'm your host, Heather McDaniel, Vice President of the West Virginia Drug Intervention Institute. And today I have a guest with us from an organization that I know very, very well, Hollis Lewis with First Choice Services. Welcome, Hollis, to our show.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for being here. We're really excited to talk about the work you do in this new program at First Choice, your role there, and not only what you do there, but kind of all of the work they do. They provide phenomenal services for the entire state and for other states as well. So let's jump right in and let's get viewers to know you a little bit and your role. So outside of First Choice and the work you do, can you just tell us a little bit about you and your background, kind of how you landed at First Choice?
Yeah, sure. Again, thank you for having me. I'm from Charleston, West Virginia. I'm a football player. I went to West Virginia State University on a football scholarship, majored in criminal justice. From there, I went to law school. I went to law school at Southern University Law Center. It's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I came back to Charleston, West Virginia. I wanted to come back home. From there, I've worked at the federal government level. So I worked for the U.S. District Court here in Southern West Virginia. I worked for the city of Charleston. I've also been a magistrate judge and most recently adjunct professor at West Virginia State University. And I've also worked on the West Virginia Parole Board. And outside of that, you know, I like to write. I love sports. I have a family. I'm married. Have 4 daughters.
Oh, bless you. Congratulations.
Thank
4
you.
girls. What a blessing.
Yes.
That's great. So you've had a lot of experience, it sounds like, with law enforcement, criminal justice, which, you know, our organization works a lot with justice-involved population as well. And so I think that leads right into what you're doing at First Choice. So you're the project director for the West Virginia Crisis Intervention Team.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about not that role yet, but about First Choice specifically and kind of the work they do as an organization?
Well, First Choice Services, they do a lot of work. And I have to admit, you know, prior to me actually getting hired and working for First Choice, I knew about the different helplines. Like, for example, they run the Help for West Virginia, 988, 1-800-GAMBLING, Quit Tobacco. So basically, First Choice runs all those various lines to help individuals who need counseling or any other services, even like if you need a job, you need help with just about anything, insurance, West Virginia Navigator. So they do a lot as far as just providing services for individuals.
And they also provide some services for states outside of West Virginia,
yes,
too, correct?
Yeah, so I think we help, we have the national 988 line, and we do run some lines for Pennsylvania as well.
Yeah, so pretty much if you need assistance in West Virginia, you can call First Choice and they can
any
probably
sort of
help
essentials. I mean, from, you know, trying to get Medicaid and insurance to, you know, quit if you need suicide prevention, need somebody to talk to, we can help.
That's great.
Yeah.
So your specific role at First Choice, I know that's a newer program for them. Can you talk a little bit about that program and what your role in that program is?
Yes, crisis intervention teams, it's been around since 1987. It was started in Memphis, Tennessee. And basically what it is the culmination of trying to get together law enforcement, behavioral health, SUD, and just community partners to have a better response to persons in crisis. So again, and that can look different from community to community. Obviously, every community has its own individual problems. I actually first learned about crisis intervention teams in San Francisco where they were trying to deal with the homeless populations. So we provide trainings, you know, we have an annual summit, and just try to coordinate services in different communities.
And when did First Choice take on this as another service that they provide? It's fairly new for them, right?
Yeah, it's really new. It's been in the works for about a year or so, but actually, you know, rolling out the programs is only about, you know, probably I would say in the last 6 months or so.
That's great. I think that's a great service. Do you, so far I'm sure there's probably not a lot of data yet, but does it seem like a lot of law enforcement agencies around the state or even locally are going to take advantage of that program, or crisis intervention teams? Yeah,
you actually have a couple agencies so far. Like you have agencies in Wheeling, some in Southern West Virginia, where you have Mingo, Wyoming, McDowell County, Bluefield area. So they're already implementing some CIT. So it's about just getting the word out. And for those agencies who don't know, just educating them on what it is and trying to get buy-in.
That's great. Fantastic. And so What exactly are you doing? Are you managing that program? What's your specific role related to crisis intervention?
Well, I'm the coordinator, so basically my role is number one to get the word out, to be on shows like this and try to educate people on exactly what we try to do. And once we have buy-in and we have different agencies that want to actually do it, then I would help coordinate their trainings and different things of that nature. And just any other service they would need related to CIT. In addition, we have a website, and what we want to do is just be like a hub for West Virginia CIT, so that way we can cover all the different locations and kind of let the community and the populace know what's out there.
That's great. That's fantastic. And so what opportunities do you think you've been given so far as a part of this role? I know it's still fairly new, and you've not been there super long, and it's a new program for First Choice, but have there been any opportunities as a result of this role that you can speak about?
Yeah, I mean, the best opportunities is, I think there's two that stand out. Number one, I've gotten to travel the state a little bit and got to know persons from different agencies, specifically law enforcement and behavioral health, from Wheeling to Wyoming County to Bluefield to Huntington. And in addition, myself and Chief Sean Schwarzenegger, who's the chief of Wheeling Police Department, who's a big advocate for CIT and probably has the most successful program thus far. We've traveled around, we've done presentations, and we've just had the opportunity to educate individuals who don't know. And, we actually have Charleston, the city of Charleston on board, so they're going to start to roll out and implement their program. So that's very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so if someone wanted to get involved in this type of work, not necessarily CIT, but just in general in the type of work that First Choice does, what do you think would be the best advice for them and how to get involved in, these type of programs?
Well, as you know, you work in a similar field. So I think the first thing, you just have to have a passion to do this. This is not easy work, no matter what side you're on. Whether you're on the prevention side, whether you're on the treatment side, whether you're on my side working, coordinating with law enforcement and behavioral health. So you have to have a passion for it. I think that's the number one thing. And unfortunately, if you do have some lived experience and hopefully you can recover from that, then I think it would be a great avenue to relay that experience to others who are in need, or if maybe you have an educational background.
Yeah, that's great. And so First Choice specifically, I know that they are a recovery-friendly workplace and do hire people in recovery and are basically like a second chance employer. So if someone is interested in getting involved at First Choice, they can just reach out via the website, or?
Yeah, I would say reach out to the website. We have a robust social media, specifically on Facebook, and and the website, I think we do a good job of keeping up to date as far as jobs that are available. So I would look there first.
Yeah, I was taking a peak at your website. I hadn't looked at it in a while, and I love how the staff is listed with the pictures.
And the cartoons.
The cartoons.
Avatars.
That's great. That's super interactive, and I think it's great. So I don't know how much of the backstory of First Choice you know. I know it's been a long time, but you can probably speak to the growth they've had, because you and I talked a little bit about this before we got started, and just how quickly they've grown, not just in helplines, but in staff.
Yeah, I believe they started with just 2 individuals taking about 500 calls a year, I believe maybe 15, 20 years ago. From there, it grew to about 60 employees, and now we stand out about 200 plus employees, running about upwards to about 20 different helplines. So the growth has been tremendous, and we've been able to help a lot of people.
And First Choice is available 24/7 for most of their programs.
Yeah, and like you just said, I believe about 50 to 60% of our staff is actually in recovery or coming from incarceration.
That's great. That's fantastic, because for some people in recovery, it's really hard to find good employment. A lot of employers won't take a chance on them. And I know that's been a big thing for First Choice since day one, is that they've been very recovery friendly, which has been great.
Yes, it's
and
awesome.
I know some of the folks that were there when I was there are still there, that were in recovery and doing a great job. So it's always great to see that. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to chat more with Hollis Lewis from First Choice Services.
Hey, Grandma Peg, what you doing?
Oh, hi, Rex. Well, you remember little Maddie, right? My granddaughter? She's on her way over to spend the afternoon with me.
What about these medicine bottles and pills, Grandma Peg? Those could be really dangerous with sweet little Maddie around.
I was just getting ready to put these away.
Folks, we never mess around when it comes to medicine. All medication should be kept in a safe cabinet or a high shelf. For a free medication disposal kit, visit wvdii.org/medication disposal. Hey kids, if you see me or anything you think might be medication, stop. It's never okay to touch or taste anything that looks like medicine. Oh, and don't forget to find a trusted adult and say something.
Thanks, Rex. Now, it's time for you to go.
Okay, Grandma Peg, you know what to do. Don't keep old Rex around.
Welcome home, man.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Healing Our Communities. As I mentioned before, I'm your host, Heather McDaniel, the Vice President of the West Virginia Drug Intervention Institute, and we're talking today with Hollis Lewis. He is the Program Director for the West Virginia Crisis Intervention Team at First Choice Services. So Hollis, we were actually talking a little about this during the break, but we'll share some of this with the viewers. How do you feel like your past experiences and past roles have really informed the work you're doing now? I know you have a long history with the parole board, law enforcement, and reentry, which is not an easy position, any of those. So how do you think those experiences have informed the work you're doing now?
Well, they're the reason, those experiences are why I'm here. You know, being on a parole board, being a judge, just working general in criminal justice, I started to see situations in which individuals were being incarcerated or were incarcerated. However, it was clear that those individuals had behavioral health issues. Those individuals, you know, you take somebody who's had 20 shoplifting charges. Are they a thief or do they suffer from SUD, substance use disorder? So I wanted to get on the other side of that and actually started to help those individuals and set policies to correct those behaviors. Because I think what happens is, and I don't know if most people realize this, you know, when we talk about behavioral health, when we talk about SUD in the state of West Virginia, it is our preeminent issues. I forgot to mention I'm also in the House of Delegates.
Yes, you did mention that earlier.
And, you know, and even in the policies that I try to advocate for, I try to advocate for those issues because, you know, we can talk about bringing businesses here. We can talk about everything we want to do to upgrade the state of West Virginia. But until we deal with individuals who are in those crises, we're not going to be able to maximize our potential.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think you really hit on a great point, is that people can't get better if we don't offer those services for behavioral health and SUD, and that's why a lot of people reoffend, is because that behavioral health piece isn't taken care of. And so of course those same behaviors are repeating because they're still sick and they're not getting the treatment. So I think that's great that you kind of had that shift. Was it hard for you to walk away from the parole board and those things? Because how long had you been doing those types of roles?
Oh, I mean, pretty much since I got out of law school, so maybe 2014, 2013. But no, it wasn't hard because I knew that this was the natural progression. And like I said, I knew that I wanted to get to this side because, as we talked about in the break, these things become generational. So, you know, it's not just trying to deal with this level or deal with these individuals. It's actually trying to, like what you're doing, to try to actually treatment, prevention. We have to run the gamut of services in order to, you know, make sure that we're going to be able to move forward as a state and even as a country.
Yeah, because we were talking, a lot of the folks on the, you know, up for parole and things have kids. And so we have to take care of those kids too, because they are exposed to trauma at a very young age, which manifests as a behavioral health issue later, which may turn into an SUD. So we've got to offer those.
I mean, you look at, behaviors in school, is this kid just a bad kid, or are they suffering from trauma that they experience at home, dealing with individuals who have untreated, SUD or untreated behavioral health issues?
Right. Yeah, and the kids can't be their best if things aren't great at home as
100%.
well. So what do you think so far in this role specifically, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit in this role and then in your previous roles, what has surprised you the most about your work working with West Virginia CIT so far?
Like I said, we're in the genesis of it, so we're, it's a fairly new program. So I think what surprised me the most is just, that measures like this aren't being implemented already. And not just in law enforcement, but I would say also, whether you're a counselor, whether you're an advocate for mental health, SUD, or what have you, it seems as though things like this should have already been implemented. But, that creates an opportunity for us to do this work.
Yeah, and so in your previous role, like with the parole board or as a magistrate judge, I'm sure that was, a very stressful, interesting job as well. What surprised you most about those things? What in those roles surprised you most about that?
Again, what surprised me, and I'm not, I'm not trying to stay on brand per se,
no, you're fine.
But what surprised me is just the level of individuals who had SUD and mental health problems. And I hate to keep saying it, but
true.
When for example, when I was on the magistrate or when I was on the parole board, I had just guesstimated, just from my own anecdotal experience, that probably 80 to 85% of the people that I actually interacted with, as far as offenders are concerned or defendants, had some sort of SUD or mental health problems. And actually, doing a little research, those numbers were actually confirmed. So it's about 85% of the people who have interaction with the criminal justice system that suffer, from one of those issues. So that was just troubling, and it was also eye-opening, and that, spurred my, new endeavor now.
I think that's an eye-opening statistic for people that maybe don't work in this field.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't work in this field, people wouldn't realize, and they all too often think, oh, they're just bad people, they're just criminals. But when you work in it, you know just how many sick people there are that are in jail or prison that are suffering. And unless you're in it every day, you don't really know just how bad it is for people. 100%.
And I think some people would hear this conversation and they would be taken aback, or they would be, say, well, those are, trying to give excuses to individuals. However, if somebody commits a crime, then they have to, they have to pay the consequences for that. But while they're doing that, we should be able to try to help them and implement any measure possible to prevent them from continuing to do that, because a lot of it is related to their trauma, their mental health, their SUD, and different things of that nature.
Right, to prevent reincarceration. Let's get them better while they're there. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. So what is your role at First Choice it most excites you? I know it's new, so you kind of get to see it come to fruition from the very beginning. What most excites you about that?
I mean, just the opportunities. Like I said, just being a new program, we have the opportunity to, create policies and procedures that I think can be long-lasting, well after I'm done in this position or whoever else takes it. But and just being able to travel around the state and actually, educate individuals on what this is and how it can benefit their agencies. Because again, when you talk about CIT, not only will it benefit individuals in crisis, but it also can benefit behavioral health. It can also benefit law enforcement to actually take those steps to make sure they have a well-rounded, holistic sort of servicing the public.
And is CIT, I should have asked this earlier, is CIT available only for law enforcement agencies, or is it available for like quick response teams or other groups of people that maybe are working on the front lines?
No, it's available to everybody. We like to start with law enforcement because they become the de facto persons or agencies that's called when a person in crisis, but it's available to EMS, firefighters, behavioral health, school counselors, because we're starting to see that as far as on the collegiate level all the way down to preschool. So counselors, teachers. So the beautiful thing about CIT is that it is truly a community program.
That's great. And so if an organization watches this and they think this would be something great for us to do, how would they go about even starting the process? What does that look
Well,
like?
just get a hold of me. We have our website here. It's let me make sure I have it right. It's West Virginia, it's wvcit.com.
Perfect.
You can also contact me at cit@firstchoiceservices.org. So just contact me. I'm sure this information will be on the screen, and we can get you started.
That's great. That's great, because I feel like we'll have some people that see this and think this would work great for them, you know, first responders or school counselors, like you
Yes.
said. That's a big deal. Any disappointments so far in this role? Anything you've seen in the state or heard that has been a disappointment, or that you think, I mean, there's always things that can be done better, but anything that has disappointed you?
Well, we're a little bit too young for that right now. I'm sure I'll have some experiences down the road. But as of now, I think that the responses that we got so far has been pretty positive. And I think what I love about it, and I think any agency, law enforcement or what have you, and also, you know, state governments, county commissioners, anybody I've talked to, they see the value in it.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful program. I was reading up on it a little bit before we came, and I think it sounds fantastic. So what is it about this role, or even working in this field in general now, that really inspires you and keeps you optimistic for the future of not just West Virginia, but law enforcement groups all over the country?
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, you know, my past experience led me to this side of it. And also, as I mentioned before, this is the preeminent issue that we're dealing with. I think that no matter where we're going as a state, no matter what we talk about, and the great things that our universities and colleges are doing, the great things that our business and government leaders are doing, all that's great. You know, we see the revitalizations of our downtowns from Huntington to Charleston to Wheeling, and even downtowns in Morgantown and Mon County. We're doing a lot of great things in the state, but until we deal with this, we will not reach our maximum potential, because, you know, we could bring the greatest companies is going to pay, you know, great living wages, but we don't have the workforce to actually fulfill those positions, because a lot of our populations, particularly in our rural areas, are dealing with these sort of issues. So we're going to have to, you know, maybe take a step back or two before we can take 10 forward.
Yeah, but I think the buy-in you've seen so far is hopeful for the future, that this will expand and do really well around the state, which is great. What do you enjoy most about your work, not just in this role, but at First Choice? I know what it's like to work there. I know the folks you work with. What do you enjoy most about your work
it's
there?
really, it's truly a great environment. I don't think I've ever been in a work environment that's this welcoming, that this understanding, that, you know, that has a vision of what the best of somebody could be. You know, our CEO, Lotta Menon, she's wonderful. So I just really like the environment, and I like where they're headed and what the mission that is that they want to fulfill.
Yeah, I think that it's a great organization,
Yes.
and they do so much great work all around the state of West Virginia, which is great. Do you guys specifically have any events or activities coming up that you'd like to share with the viewers, or anything, you know, coming up soon?
Yes, we have our West Virginia CIT Summit. So that's coming up this summer. I believe it's from July 29th through the 31st. So it's a summit, like I said, if you're a business leader, if you're law enforcement, government, you can log onto our website and register for that. So it's going to be a great event, which you can learn more about CIT from experts, and you also learn from community leaders within West Virginia.
And where is that event going to be?
It's going to be in Charleston, West Virginia. It's going to be at the Embassy Suites, so you can book your rooms there. We also have a block of rooms at the Marriott Hotel.
Great. And so another question about CIT, if an organization decides this is something they want to do, is there a cost to this, or is it free for them, not the summit, but just to get involved with CIT, all of the trainings that are offered to you?
Well, there's pathways in which, for example, if you could not afford the training, we would try to work that. That's kind of my job. I could try to work out something, but there is some cost up front for the trainings. Although, again, those can be covered, you know, kind of working some different angles. But once you are trained, and once you have those trainers within your different organizations, those trainers can actually train, you know, the rest of your
that's
staff
great.
and everything like that.
Great. So it's just that one-time cost, and then they can go out and train.
Yeah, and then
folks
you
and
want to
them.
get, you know, a large percentage of your agencies, no matter, like I said, law enforcement, EMS, school counselors, get them trained, and then they can do trainings as well
That's fantastic.
internally.
That's great.
And then additionally, a lot of the trainings, they count as continuing education credits as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
People are always looking for that, especially in this field, because a lot of people need that. So that's great to know. Anything else you'd like to share with our viewers about yourself, about the program, or anything else you'd like to let people know about?
Well, again, I want to thank you for having me. Like I
Absolutely.
said, I just completed my freshman year in the House of Delegates representing the 57th
Congratulations
District.
on that.
Thank you.
I'm sure
so I
it was-
represent Charleston, South Charleston, Dunbar. And like I said, if you want to get a hold of me, it's Hollis Lewis on any social media. And also, if you want to learn more information about CIT, log onto our website and contact me.
Can you share that website one more time for folks, just
It
so they
is- I
can
wanna
grab
make
that
sure
if
I'm
they
right.
don't have it?
It's wvcit.com. And all the contact information's on this brochure.
Great. And so if folks wanted to have you at an event, we're getting into that time of year where
Yeah.
there's a lot of walks and a lot of things with vendors. You go and that's something you guys do, go set up a table and have information?
Just reach out to me and
Great.
I can be, long as, schedule permitting, I will definitely love to be in the community to, like I said, get that hands-on, educational experience.
Great. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
today. I've learned so much about this program that I didn't know a lot about, and it sounds like a great program and a great opportunity for organizations in our state to get involved in something that can really not just help them, but the folks that they're working with every single day.
Yes.
So we really appreciate you coming, and thank you to our viewers for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Healing Our Communities.